Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith.
The clean eater.
Ken Williams and Nick Lieberman. And do you know that I forgot that? Do you know that I forgot that Ken was here on Monday? I didn't know he was here. I asked him where he'd been. He said I was here Monday with Adrian.
Yes.
And he was able to tell me about the Long Island trees and everything. So obviously he was here.
You're losing it. You're losing it, bro.
We have to do a couple minutes of this. The Trump thing. We just have to do a couple minutes.
With Helsinki?
No, not Helsinki. Just him.
Okay.
I will just listen. I have nothing to say. I'm tired of him.
I know you are, but Rogie,
can I step out for a minute?
No, but let's just
I'm going to step
forget
out
about
for 5
it.
minutes.
Let's forget.
No,
let's talk about him. Let's not talk about him.
Go ahead. I'm tired of him.
I know, but I don't want to talk about him because I don't want you to get sick and put your head down. This is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Nick Lieberman, right?
Oh, okay.
Nick Lieberman goes somewhere and says, that's his radio name, Rogan Smith. So he goes somewhere and says, I like Ken. I like Ken, and I believe everything Ken tell me.
It's true.
And then he come back the next day and say, no, I told Ken in private what he's doing is completely wrong. See, this is the thing. I don't want to talk about him, Rogan Smith. Put your head on the table because I know you don't feel good. Why is he driving us to the edge? See, he's driven you to the edge already.
Republicans and Democrats, both sides.
You can't even handle it, Rogan Smith. You got your head on the counter. He's driven you off the edge.
I cannot stand talking about this man. I'm so over him.
Right. Well, you're surprised
no,
he got
you're
into office?
not.
Or he's like...
No, I knew he was getting elected. I said that from the jump. I'm just tired of him.
No. But what I'm saying is,
He's
the guy.
buffoon.
What did the guy say, George Will? This sad something wreck of a man, something like that.
That's rough.
It's just. But I think, you know what? I think there's a disorder.
Like with America or government?
No, Trump. But I think he has dementia or.
Oh,
you can't be that bold with lies, man. You can't be that bold. You can't say.
Yeah.
And then he says, look, they got him. Obviously, they got him to say some things, right? Like, it was Russia.
Yeah.
So they got him to say that.
No,
and then he adds,
it could have been somebody else.
Or others.
Yeah, because you never know. That's why I'm done with this man.
He's a man of appearance. He's like a peacock. He always wants to look good. So he'll say whatever to make him look good.
Because if he admits it was Russia meddling, then that says that his whole election is a farce.
And
so he's not going to do that.
Go ahead with the
Actually, what is the protocol if we find out that Russia had something to do with it? Do we do another election, or does he step down? Like, no one's ever talked about that.
That's true.
Yeah, what happened?
Never gone to the next step.
If they found that he was involved with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, I don't know what they would do, but here's the thing. I think when they find out whatever they have to find out, I don't think it's about the election. Mm-hmm. This guy, see, Rogan Smith, right? She doesn't like me.
Okay.
Okay? But let's say every time I have something on her.
I don't?
No, let's say I have something. Yeah. Let's say I have some. Right. Let's say I have something. Let's say I have something on her, like she likes to, tickle herself with a peacock feather or whatever, something weird.
She's got like a jacket made of kitten fur or something.
Something freaky.
Which I do,
because she's freaky.
Coincidentally.
Now let's say I'm the only one with that information, or I have information that she's laundering money, whatever, and I say, listen, and like jail time stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Jail time. By the way,
real hard hitting stuff.
I don't want anyone to hear this because they might free him at the visa. But like for instance, in his line of business, in his world. He could have maybe even had someone killed.
You talking about Trump?
Yeah, he might have before. He never thought he was going to be the president.
No.
I always tell people if you're going to be in the FBI or the president or something like that, you need to know when you're like
You've
8.
You've made this story very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Because you need to know when you're in 8, so you don't do nothing bad.
They got to be squeaky clean.
Because they can find out, right? So maybe your boy hired someone of them, Ivor or whatever his name is, to go and bump someone off.
Okay.
Because there was a deal.
Because he's so afraid of. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, so you think Trump has killed somebody? Or
no, I don't. Okay. Don't put me in that boat.
No, I'm not. Just
because I got 23 more years on the visa. What I'm saying is, that's the kind of. I think it's like it's either a jail thing, or it's like super duper embarrassing.
Oh, he's not like personal blackmail on Trump.
It's on Trump.
Okay. Yeah, on Trump. Yeah.
It's on Trump. It's either money laundering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll have some evidence on that because they just showed a thing the other day where Trump was broke. And all of a sudden, Like, he couldn't get any loans in the United States. And all of a sudden, he was buying up, like, golf courses in cash.
Despite what he says, he's not the best businessman.
No. He was broke, and he's buying up all these golf courses with cash. Some money laundering. So it's either some crime. Money laundering is a crime as well. Or something super-duper embarrassing.
Yeah, I think
like
illegitimate child. I think illegitimate
or
child.
Something.
I think it's something criminal.
Criminal.
Because, I mean, the man is...
And
he's going through the storm with Stormy Daniels. I mean, like, that's super embarrassing. He's
but
been
that
caught
isn't
on...
embarrassing. You get a little action pack.
Married man with a porn
star. I think the peeing is probably a little bit embarrassing.
With a porn star and talking about having unprotected sex with a bunch of women. That's very embarrassing.
I don't think so. I think he thinks like a macho man.
I think that's
I think if you go peeing though, I think if you got on the bed and they peeing, I think that's a problem.
That's running the mill.
Everyone's running the mill. Don't shame the man.
Whose mill is that? Okay. So here's what I think now is that Putin. This is all between him and them. Putin said, now, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm tired of these people blaming Russia.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to do is we're going to have a summit. You're going to come over here to the summit, okay? You come over here to the summit.
And disagree with me.
We're going to meet privately, and I'm going to tell you what's going to go down in the press conference.
Oh, sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Otherwise, snap, crackle, pop. We got all the pictures. We got everything going on. You're going to jail.
This is embarrassing.
Okay? And then he comes out and says, oh, yeah, I know the intelligence. I know they said, this is thing. But quite frankly, Rogan, very strong, very powerful, told me no. She didn't do it.
It was a firm no. It was a firm no.
It was a firm no. So, so as far as I'm concerned, why would Rogan do that?
So embarrassed. This is why I cannot deal with this man. I just cannot.
Oh, that's the first time he apologized, too. Apparently it's like the only few times in his whole career that he's actually said, I messed up and I'm sorry.
And then, you know what? He did something that's almost like 7 years oldish, where the reporter asked him, to ask Putin, so do you have anything over on Trump?
Oh, right.
And then Trump jumps up, because, if they had, they would have done it a long time. It's like, come on, where are we, kindergarten?
Oh, my God.
It's petty. You know what? We are just we're culturally changed for life. I mean, this is so low. This is so basic. I don't know how we can recuperate from this. And then, the worst people of all?
Who?
You know who they are. Those Republican people who are just...
There are Republicans who aren't in favor of it. No, there are Republicans who ain't feeling him.
Yeah, but see, he came out the next day and said, well, I didn't mean to say that. And they all go, okay, he's clarified it.
Have they forgiven him? I thought they were upset.
It's good now. We're good.
Because I remember he was under fire by both parties.
Exactly. That's
what happened with, do you remember Charlottesville? They all condemned him. And then he said, well, no, there was bad, even though it was bad on both sides, but it was bad. And they go, well, no, he said it's okay. He's okay now.
Yeah.
No, but...
Oh, boy.
Also, the implications of when he's done with office, however that be, whoever's going to run next is also going to be a very interesting character. Because now he's kind of proven anyone can be president,
Yeah.
So it's like we can have...
And then you had your boy. Remember your boy?
Like that role right now is like anybody can get...
Hey,
I feel like anybody
can
get
into
joking
about Oprah, but Oprah might run for president.
Do you remember your boy, Pence? When Trump took the water and put it on the ground?
No, I don't.
Did you see the thing? Pence said put his water on the ground.
You never saw that?
Funny. No.
Did you ever see that?
No, but that's just
They
funny.
were sitting at a boardroom table, and Trump took his water and put it on the ground. Pence then did the same thing. He just went...
Monkey see, monkey do?
Yeah.
Like he adores Trump. Anyway, we'll be right back. Yeah, we were just listening to the president.
To the real president.
Yeah.
Former president.
Barack Obama.
Yeah, Barack Obama. It's amazing how, and we go back to this thing about tribalism, can drive wedges and even cause extremism. Hey, people were so freaked out. The people who were the tribal, opposition to Obama was so freaked out. I tell you, you saw it coming with that Sarah Palin woman. when she started talking about, it's just. Yep. I said, oh boy, here we go. And remember John McCain. That's why you have to give your hat off to John McCain.
I do.
Remember when she said when the woman came, well, he's just a Muslim terrorist, and John McCain said, no, ma'am, he's not. He's an American patriot and wants to do the best for the country. That's a leader.
Yeah.
So those days are gone. What else is happening in town? Listen, let me ask you a question, Rogan Smith. I was looking at one of our papers this morning. I see where people could get, on the same day, 2 loans totaling $11 million.
Excuse me?
So you know this thing with Mr. Miller with the thing. Yeah. Well, it showed a record of the loans. Mm-hmm. There was one day where on March 3rd got a loan for $800,000, and on the same day one for $10 million. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even know.
Not people. Certain people can get 2 loans in one day.
Can I be a
not,
CP?
Not,
can I be a
not
CP?
people, because a Rogan can't walk into any financial institution in this country.
You know
and
what
get
you should do? You should do like how they try it, like, you know, con people try things. What you should do is go in and say, and look, can I get a loan for $13, please? Which they'll probably give you. And then the same day come back and say, listen, can I get one for 19? You know, just to test, see if you can get 2 in one day. And then just build it up over time. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just crazy. The amount of... Anyway, it's... You know, can you imagine, and I'm not trying to get in people's business, but according to the newspaper, can you imagine not paying a payment of $400,000 a month for 10 years?
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's scary, but yeah, I mean, there are people like that.
There are lots of people like that in this country.
No, I don't think everyone up to that 400,000.
Oh, there's some people who probably have more.
No, I think that's a high one.
Yeah, that's really.
We have people in this country who don't pay light bills, haven't paid them for years. We've had conversations about this before, where people whose bills are $100, $200 getting their lights turned off, and people who have thousands and thousands in arrears, their lights remain on. We've seen this before.
There's a lot of weird normal here. You know
for certain people.
The WN. You know, like I was talking. I'm gonna go on this thing about.
Hello.
This is someone on the line, so I'm gonna put it on. There's a lot of people who, for instance, I talk about the civil service, and I think a light needs to be shown. Is that the word? Shined on them.
Shine on.
Because I think there's a lot of people who are invisible, okay, and who have impact on you and our lives every day. But they're totally invisible, right? And that their normal is focused so much on not providing the services that we demand, that we should demand. Mm-hmm. But that's just like it's normal now. So it's normal for them to be doing their side job, right, as opposed to the job that they're being paid for. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's gone on for so long. You know, I see it all the time. In this particular country, I don't know about other places, things that are not supposed to happen for so long.
It becomes the norm, and then it's difficult to reverse it.
You can't reverse it. Yeah. Because what happens is you get, let's say a vendor, okay, a food vendor who puts up a thing on the side of the road, okay?
You always go
now,
this one.
You're supposed to come that day and move that vendor.
If we had proper enforcement of our laws.
Right. Because if you do, you say, okay, you know, I don't know how much you invest in your little crate or whatever the deal is, but you're gone now.
Yeah.
Okay? But then you have people who they allow them to go on for
years,
20 years. So their whole life is this thing.
Yeah.
You can't to take that away now is.
Yeah, and I understand that point now. I don't feel like you should come there after all those
years. It's almost
years.
like you have a right to be there. Almost.
It's like squatters' rights.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like quieting land.
Yep.
You ever quiet some land? I can quiet me some land.
Right by government house.
You know how you do it? Well, they did.
I know. That's
true.
why I said
and actually, I never thought of that way. I know that they have certainly squatted, but they probably could lay claim to that land.
Yeah.
They plan. See, the thing is,
just
you know,
they'll try and get
you know how you quiet land? You have to cultivate it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they plant any fruits in it.
Yeah, man.
No, I don't see no corn on it.
I see plants.
Bougainvillea. I don't think that counts as cultivating.
Yes, it
is. I
is.
think you have to be able to eat it.
You can eat bougainvillea.
Well, good, and then you die.
Whatever they pronounce it.
By the way, I'm going to say it publicly. I need the guy to prove it to me he's crippled. I'm sorry. I said it publicly.
I don't think
I'm sorry.
People,
I see
I don't think that is an Oscar-worthy performance.
I'm sorry.
If he's not.
I see the crutches don't be touching the ground. I'm sorry.
That's true.
Okay.
It has been that way for years.
What? Not touching the ground?
No. I mean, he's been on the crutches for a very long time.
I'm not buying it now. I think it's a part of the whole thing.
That's fine.
Yeah, the sympathy kind of vote kind of thing.
Did you see Django Unchained?
I did.
You remember your boy when he was about to get killed? He come up off the cane.
Yeah.
Clarence Williams was dead. He was pretending all the time to be. You remember
Clarence.
That? Not Clarence. Samuel Jackson.
Yeah,
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
Clarence Williams retired.
I was gonna say what? What Django you watched?
It's Django too. So he came in.
Yeah, I know.
And then Rennie, okay, young, and all of a sudden he stood up. Mm-hmm. I think I don't want to belittle. I'm just saying. I think
I think
it's a part of the act to say I deserve to be here because I'm disabled. Yeah. That's what I think.
It's also unassuming,
That's assumption. I mean,
it is an assumption.
Assumption on your part.
Let one truck come. See what happens.
Listen, you have a personal beef.
I do.
Yes, it is
okay.
Evident.
Now you cannot quiet the lad, I think, until you plant some peas or some corn or something like that.
I don't think they specify what types of crop have to be on.
It's land. A crop. Is bougainvillea a crop?
I don't know.
Because I don't know. I don't go anywhere where they have a bougainvillea and Dijon sauce or anything like that.
Maybe they do. But to your original point, though, you cannot go there after 20 years or 15 years or 10 years and then tell the person get up. This is where enforcement needs to be happening on the spot. You're supposed to have people just going through the island and checking to see that, where's this person setting up this on this road or whatever, you know what I mean, and just pull them down, take them down in the moment.
It now has a guard. It's like a pergola. What do you call those things? A pergola.
What?
The things that people plan on.
Yeah.
Pergola with the bougainvillea and flags.
Yeah.
It's a big time thing now,
and it's an
obstruction to traffic.
How so?
Because when especially at Jitney, if he need to sell 3 waters or 5 waters to Jitney and it's grain, that water's got to get sold before that Jitney go.
Well, that's not his problem so much as the Jitney driver.
But he's causing the obstruction.
But he can offer it, but the Jitney driver need not take it.
I just think they all need to be moved pronto. Okay.
There are people who walk and who there are individuals.
There was a little issue.
There are individuals who you have tourists who are doing those walking tours and they want to look at the government house and the Christopher Columbus statue and all that stuff, and they go there for drinks and little snacks and stuff.
See, now you even in the bandwagon. By the way, there was 2 branches.
What happened?
There was a branch
one was,
downtown
by Churchill.
And one, but then there's a little.
I think they diversify.
But there was a little riff.
Yes, shut up.
Be
quiet.
They're trouble in paradise. Okay?
It's amazing his choice of words.
You don't even know what's going on.
I know.
But there was a little riff, a little break up.
Okay.
So silly.
But listen, I don't know. We just, we let things. We're big on the sliding, man. One of my favorites now is the sign that says no authorized parking.
Where's
and the car that's for sale, the for sale cars, that's where they park, right there. It's like this is where you're supposed to.
There's a sign that says no what?
If you go along by Papal Track.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's 4 signs that says it has a tow truck on the sign, no parking. Then there's some by Westridge.
Are the cars towed?
I don't think so.
They're not. So okay.
I think it means park
again,
here. See, I think what it is we have what you call DL, dyslexic law. Whatever we say, you do the opposite of it. Say, don't park here. That is where you're supposed to park.
That's opposite law. I don't know. That's dyslexic law.
Yeah, well, I don't know. See, it's all.
Opposite law.
You can't.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's all garbled. It's all garbled. That's what I mean. It's all garbled.
You got dyslexic.
Yeah. Whatever. I have. But I know one thing.
No, but if you have the sign up there saying don't park here, and you have the tow sign, the tow truck sign there, just then tow them.
Yeah, someone
should enforce. Again, it's the problem. Yeah. We have all these laws and rules and regulations, and nobody to enforce them, so the cars will continue to park there.
You know why they don't enforce them? Because y'all haven't factored in the DTBOMM. And you know what that is.
Hold on, say it again.
DTOBOM.
You said DT? I've never heard a word.
Don't take bread out of my mouth.
Okay.
The DT don't take bread.
DTB.
OMB factor.
So you think there's money in looking the other way and not enforcing?
No. So see, he's foreign. He doesn't understand. We got to straighten out. Go do it. Do your thing.
Let me see. So anytime, this is so funny. Anytime there's a Bahamian who is breaking a law, doing something that's contrary to law,
commercial something.
Okay, and now the government or the powers that be want to enforce the law.
Yeah.
The first thing they cry is, "You trying to take bread out of my mouth? Like you trying to." And my second, like you trying to, like you trying to hurt my business, and I won't be able to provide for my family. You trying to take bread out of my mouth.
Forget about the rest of the country. You hate
me. Okay.
Even though I'm breaking the law.
Yeah, sure.
Even though I'm going contrary to the rules.
Okay.
You trying to hurt me personally.
Interesting.
And I love my personal favorite, which I hate, is the follow-up to that.
Oh, what?
No. To don't taking bread out of my mouth. What do you think that is? Y.
Y. Just think of the word.
Y. W. M. B.
I can get it. So what is it?
You have to write it down.
What is it?
What'd you say?
You-hoo, boss.
You-hoo.
No,
what?
let me do it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Y.
U.
W.
No, see, W's
M. G. R. E.
I don't know what that one is.
You will something?
You must see? What?
U. No, do it again.
U,
Y.
U.
W.
Will?
M.
Will. I don't know. You got to tell me.
W's hard.
You see, you was robbing me when I don't tell you. Tell me.
Okay, so you know how that feels, right?
Tell me.
You know what it is?
No.
You want me to go rob A?
See,
they'll do more crime.
Well, there's also the classic.
By taking bread out of my mouth, you want me to go wrong.
You want me to become a criminal.
Yeah.
So the one that is ancillary to that, that's immediate, more of an immediate impact, is like when I saw the customs lady at the airport eating the custard grapes.
And you told her about it, right?
I said to her on the spot with my daughter,
do you think it's appropriate?
I said, do you think that this is appropriate? You know, this is a customer service there. I'm being very formal. Someone said to me, the other day, if you go in very formal, very good, everything, they look at you in dishonor. You got to go in there with, hey, sweetie, how you doing? That's the only way you can get some props. Right. But the woman, so I said, do you think in a customer service area like this, do you think it's appropriate to be eating at the customs inspection desk? So I thought, well, maybe she would have said, sorry about that. Something. She said, you know what her response was? You want me daddy.
I was going to say starve or something like that.
No, not to starve, dad.
So she doesn't.
So that, of course, my daughter and I, that took us aback. Okay, because you see, you can't respond to those things.
I think you could say that took us aback.
Well, it took me aback.
Yeah, you did
so
say
it took us
we
aback.
were taken aback.
Well, it took us aback.
But that took us back.
Okay,
like that.
So listen, it's those things that we have. We have them. I don't know what they're called. In the literary world, you have different names for things. Like, pronoun, this, that, different things, alliteration, all that. Well, I don't know what it is, but we have what we can say something, you can't come back. I don't know what it is called, them kind of things. I can say something, you can't come back.
That's just them Bahamianisms.
Like, with your bad shape. Them kind of things, okay? Just completely not relevant to the conversation.
They've lost the argument the minute they do that.
But then they take you because they see you's a punk. You can't come down
but
to them.
They running a risk because sometimes people they could present themselves as proper, and then when they see you carry on, they go flip mode.
One time, this woman,
gotta be careful.
She thought she was bad. She said, "So you want me to take my clothes off on you?" I said, "Let's go."
Nice.
Let's unbutton.
You said unbutton it?
Let's unbutton and the
But then you saying it with like a joke though. You.
With unbutton?
When you say
No, I started taking off.
And what did she say?
Bold. I respect
she
that.
just laughed. She laughed back.
See, exactly.
Diffuse the situation. Good job.
Diffuse. But I thank God she didn't start taking off first. Because it would have been.
Was she a good-looking woman?
No, it would have been costly.
That's a chicken race.
They'd have to bring in like
first.
She said costly.
I think they would have to bring in someone like Rento Kill or something like that.
You want me to take my clothes off for you?
Yeah, that's what they do.
Where did that come from?
And the people who you want to take off your clothes, they ain't offering to take off their clothes.
What I'm going to do from now on is when I go somewhere and I see someone attractive, and they don't do anything the way that I'd like them to do, I'd say, you know what? I think you should take off your clothes for me,
No, I don't think it's going to work that way, boss. I think they have to suggest it.
What else is going on in this town? I saw a thing from Dr. Thomas. You never know it's real, but I'm pretty sure this is real. He's a pediatrician, and he was a whole thing about how you have to deal with your kids this summer in terms of the heat.
It's unbearable.
But it's so, hey.
What?
Hey.
The desert, right?
I was going to say, I was just about to say.
But guess what? There's no climate change.
You live in Dubai.
We're having climate change.
Yeah, ain't no climate change. Fake news.
Just turn up the air condition, okay?
No, it is really, really hot. Like, I step outside, I feel like I'm going to burst into flames.
What's bad is it seems, and this show goes to the issue of the ozone layer, right? Because the ozone layer is supposed to filter out the rays of the sun, right? You can tell really there's a significant difference when you step out of the sun into the shade, how penetrating the sun is now. I mean, I never felt it like this before.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back. Our guest this afternoon is Ace Newbold. He's the press secretary. Well, he better bring himself here soon. We'll see them they're in the Heil. They're Heil people. Okay.
No,
we were talking because this is interesting stuff. That there's some freaky people out there, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people who name Donald. But I don't think they're going to retire the Donald name. We're talking about how bad Donald is. Donald is nothing compared to your boy Himmler and all those kind of fellas. You know? Okay? I don't think anyone whose name Himmler has changed their name. Mm-hmm. Himmler, you know, he was like the propaganda guy, right? And Eichmann and all them.
Yeah, but nobody ever really
knew about them.
Nah.
Yeah, they knew about Himmler.
They were overshadowed by Adolf.
Well, yeah. So I think the only someone who is naming their child Adolf now, they're in the neo-Nazi clan. They worship Adolf.
No, man. That's grounds for your kid to be removed.
Find someone.
What? You're going too far.
No, I'm serious. If you name your kid a bad name, like the U.S. might take custody of your kids.
No.
Yeah, they take custody anyhow. Listen, you don't want your child to grow up with that name.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that name. I don't see anything.
When you have your first child, name him Beelzebub.
Yeah, or or Cardi B. Name your kid Culture, but with a K.
He probably doesn't even know who Cardi B is.
Yeah, it's a singer, perhaps singer.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Candace teach you that, eh?
No, I see it on TV.
You ain't know.
I saw it on TV. I saw it on TV. She just did a thing with Drake, I think, as well.
What? You know who Drake is?
Gwyneth Paltrow, Apple. There we go. There's.
Yeah.
God.
They keep getting older, maybe.
Do you know who Beethoven is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He cut a track with Drake.
He cut a track. Yeah, he cut a track.
It was fire.
Yeah. So no, I don't. I think that.
It's a dog. Was that
a Drake is a dog?
No, he meant Beethoven.
Okay. Yeah. The movie. Yeah. And the movie. Yeah. With that was Richard Dreyfuss or someone of those fellows. No. I can tell you the name of the guy. I know the guy. Charles Grodin. Grodin. That's who it was. Charles Grodin. You know who that is, Rogan? Okay, good.
Actually, I don't either.
He's an actor. He's a very good actor, actually.
Charles Grodin? Never heard of him.
If you look it up, you'll recognize his face.
Never heard of him ever.
Look it up.
First of all, it's Josh Groban.
Grodin,
I think it's spelled.
Yeah, that's correct.
Charles. Yeah.
What?
Grodin. I know you're going to recognize him.
I'm going to guess he's 62 years old.
He's in his 60s, but you're going to recognize him. He's been in a lot of movies.
Never seen this man
Never?
before.
No? Is that right?
No, I have to see right now.
Look at the movies he's in. You've seen him. Anyway, we have 83. with us.
Wow.
He's 83.
He's 83.
Wow, man,
I've never seen this man.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's been in a lot of great movies.
The Heartbreak Kid. Okay.
He's been in a lot of great movies. Yeah. He has a very dry sense of humor.
Business. Okay.
Yeah, he's always like, what's going on? Yeah.
Well, he wasn't Beethoven. Ivan Reitman produced.
So listen, we have with us the press secretary of the Bahamas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. They're doing an exchange program with our press secretary, Anthony Ace Newbold. He's in D.C. right now, and we're happy to have Sarah here. Yeah. Did you bring any chicken?
Did who bring any chicken?
Why would she bring chicken?
Isn't she like something to Colonel Sanders?
What?
No, sorry. No, I don't.
They're from Tennessee, or wherever you came from. Kentucky or Arkansas. They're from Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah.
Let me tell you, and I know some people from Arkansas may listen. Those are some scary places, man.
Oh, the Bible Belt? Yeah.
Arkansas, Mississippi.
Yeah. Louisiana.
You realize you don't think of Arkansas on a normal basis at all? Think about that.
Because my in-laws live there. Some of my in-laws live there. Mm-hmm.
Someone once said to me, "Listen, man, you want to go to Arkansas?" And all I could say to them is, "What is that on the way to?"
Was this person a friend of yours?
Yeah. Because I'm not going there as a final destination.
That's true.
It's like a passing through state.
Yeah. So Ace Newbold, he just came back. That didn't work out with Sarah. How are things going?
He came back with this.
Listen, the first thing I want to do is get you mad again. You know I just came back from Brussels, right?
No, I don't care where you've been.
No, I
didn't. It's a traveling man.
Always will get
just
him,
so
right?
You know, just so you know, my wife is traveling to Luxembourg and is going to go to Brussels. I declined the trip. So take your Brussels. Yes, I did. No, it's on a lie. So take your Brussels and sprout. Get it? That's corny. That's corny.
That's really corny.
So corny.
Yeah. But it's
corny.
What is that?
God, it's one of your better jokes. Really?
He's no longer here after today, right? Yeah, that's a good joke too. Yeah, I don't care where you've been. Okay. By the way, you
official
know,
business
and Paris. Well,
yeah, well, who cares?
you know.
I care. What's that?
Yeah, I've been to all them places. You go to Vegas, you hit all them in one room. Listen to me. You know, I've often said this, and you're going to have to defend it now. You know, you hear about people, and I'm going to be watching you in whatever amount of time. You hear about people who, when they retire from civil service, right? They got like 89 days. Months.
Oh, accrued vacation time.
Right, vacation, right? And you know why? They're in the travel club.
Because they travel
You
with
in
the government,
club now
so
too.
they don't have to use their
You
vacation
go in
time.
now. Listen to me. Listen to me very cautiously.
listen to
So
me.
you ain't on the press. You ain't on the podium today. Okay?
This your show,
yeah,
right?
you go. He gets a trip. He get a little trip to Brussels, right?
Nah,
he says, you know what?
It has nothing to do with the government of the Bahamas.
See, that's why I
International
asked him if
Association
it's
of Press
personal.
Clubs.
You still in that?
International Association
Don't
of
you have
Press
to
Clubs.
don't you have to step down?
I'm vice president of the ACP Press Clubs Federation.
That's even
I
worse.
can't-
You're two travel club now. Okay.
Well, has nothing to do with the
Okay, but let me
government.
talk about the travel club anyway. So these people, they get these trips, and by the way, it's not to Miami. They're not. The travel club doesn't go to Miami.
What are you going to
They
Miami
go to
for?
like Zivintapunu, places you've never heard of.
Places you've invented.
Okay, what?
on
places
government
you've invented.
business.
You know,
On government business.
Papua New Guinea,
Yes.
Togo.
I actually
You know?
just met somebody who is
course.
now in Papua
New Guinea. Yes.
New Guinea.
Yeah, they used to be headhunters.
You remember John?
That's true.
John whom? What did he do?
God, John was an MP for a while. What is John's? His father?
Oh, Kerry.
John
Oh,
Kerry.
John Kerry.
He's in Papua.
He's in Papua.
Really?
He lives in Papua.
Yes.
How the hell
Stop
he get? You know, this is why
lying.
I'm trying to trust Bahamians. You know. You say you're gonna make a ghost move in
that's a
PG,
real ghost
in
move.
Yeah.
PUG.
John is-
okay.
John
and
is
next
there.
thing you know, hey, what's happening, Fields?
Involved in
Wow.
the judiciary down there.
Are you
Because he's a
kidding?
lawyer.
He's a lawyer, yeah.
Yeah.
And
in
that's a
fact,
Commonwealth country.
Yeah, in fact, he said to me, "Listen, we need attorneys in Papua.
Yeah, we're not doing
So if you know some attorneys
Yeah.
who may want to have a change of scenery for a while,
Yeah.
give me a call. So
Yeah.
anybody who's listening,
Yeah.
Wow.
get a hold of
Do
me.
they
I
do
could
John
Canoe?
Yeah.
connect
John
you
Canoe?
with John.
Yeah.
No, he's
They
serious.
probably originated it.
They may
Yeah,
have.
that's nice.
And I have to tell you some stuff off air.
Yeah.
But he's
No, that's
doing well.
amazing.
He's doing well down there.
He's
I had
been around.
no
He's been
idea.
in Cayman, all these places.
Yes,
so he's
he
a
was in
number one.
Cayman.
Yeah. Well, this
Yeah.
is why you don't limit yourself, right?
No.
But the travel club, he's trying to take me off of that, Rogan Smith. They get all of this vacation because they don't need to take vacation. Because if you're going to these places, you can just go, and then sometimes you just say, you know what, I'll just take my wife.
But do
with
you
me.
get to see the place
No,
though? Because
you
you're
don't.
working.
I'm just about
Yeah,
to
because
say
you're
that.
working.
Thank you, Rogan.
don't get to experience
You go there,
it.
you're not going sightseeing.
No.
No, you're
Going
going
to
to work. No, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell
I'm
you.
telling you.
Let
So I
me tell
have to
you if you've
disagree
not
with
heard
you
this.
on that.
Let me tell you if you've not
Yeah.
heard this. Boy, you know, we went to this restaurant, and the duck was so good.
Yeah, but they have to eat.
Yeah, well, you got to eat it.
Yeah,
I
what
mean,
I
come
gotta
on.
do?
Your business partner.
Send me over
They
there. I
begin to
can't
duck.
even see the city. Feed me something
They
that
begin
is,
to duck.
pay for it. Right?
You might as well.
So they don't get to see it.
No,
No,
most-
don't they have
most of these-
sponsored tours and stuff like that? Come on.
Not necessarily. Depending on the nature of the trip.
Yeah.
These are working trips.
Okay.
Now, if whomever it is decides they're going to take their wife, fine. She may
Get to go and
get to
experience
get to go
it.
on
Yeah.
some trip.
So let
but-
me ask you, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. I've taken your word, but I want to ask one little quick question. So let's say you go on one of these things. It's a 5-day thing,
Uh-huh.
and you go to the conference. You have to check in.
Right.
You get the bag. You
Right.
get a bag.
Right.
You always have a bag with some
With the goodies.
with the stuff in it.
The goodie bag.
Well,
Now, let me
supplemented is
say
not
it.
always
Now, let me
good.
Not
say
always
this. I
good.
would make this admission.
Bunch of people.
I would make this admission because I think it's important to admit the truth. Okay? Now, I haven't been on a conference for a while, but I used to
Okay.
go on conferences when I used to work in other places. I just get the bag, man.
I know.
come back.
I'm glad you say
I come back.
when I used to work in other places.
Yeah.
See, no, he
Because
knows
I never
where
been on
it is.
any
I know
seminars.
where it is.
No,
You
I never
picked
been.
that too. You
I never
smart.
been on any seminars with our thing away.
That-
Honestly,
you
I
know
haven't.
Atlantis.
Yeah, no. So what I'm saying is, I get the bag and the books. So when I come back, I've been at a conference.
No, I don't know about
But I
anybody
skip out.
else.
I got a 5. What do you call them? Plenary. What do they call them?
Plenary sessions.
I'm not going to them. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, well, it depends on why you're there. And if you don't know what that means, maybe you don't need to be on the trip.
They have another one in plenary and another. What's the other one? It's another Neri. They have.
No, you're thinking of something else. Yeah. The plenary session is really what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I don't.
But no, I don't know about anybody
The question
else.
I ask is this, and you're the press secretary, so you should know. What do they bring back? What? See, here's what I'm saying. Roganne Smith can go to, say, Orlando, and she can go down International Drive, and she will see how they organize, say, the median. And she would come back and say, you know what? We need to adopt this.
Right.
I don't see these brothers adopting nothing.
Well, there are two sides to that because one of the things you also hear, one of the complaints you also always hear is you go to Finland and you see that this is the way they do education. You come back here, you think we could do that just because you see it in Finland?
Yeah.
No.
You've heard Jerome say this very same thing too.
Who Jerome?
When Jerome Sawyer was here, he talked about when he went away. Jerusalem was it?
No, to CNN.
Yeah, but it was in Jerusalem or something. I can't remember.
He did CNN in Atlanta.
But when he came back to ZNS and he wanted to implement some things, it was like
WYTI.
Yeah, whatever that is. Who you think you is?
I get it.
Right? No, that's one part of it.
He's right.
But the other part of it is some great knowledge about what it is. Usually, whatever your job is, whether it's in finance, whether it's in the Ministry of Works, great knowledge that even if you could just use some of it locally,
or even if they just keep it to themselves, that's
well. a lot of times that happens.
They come back with the ideas, they give it to the powers that be, and people just sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, and
so it's not their fault.
You hear people talk all the time about these reports that are done,
the papers.
Yeah, people just it's some make work for some people because they get the reports and they say this looks good.
While we're on the
I know
we're
that
on the issue
very
of reports, how many different color papers are there? I've never understood
green,
that. You have green paper, a blue paper,
and
a white paper.
White paper.
It's white.
What's the differential? What does that mean? Because you hear it all the time. I'm telling you, I've read most people don't know what it means. Well, white paper was done on that. What exactly is that?
Yeah,
I know most paper is white, but what exactly is that?
I think the white paper, and I'm going to take a white paper is the initial discussion.
Okay.
By the time it gets to the green paper, that's the serious
paper.
That's a go?
Go?
That's the serious paper at that point. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just want to know what these papers Roganne, have you never thought of that? We say it all the time.
I knew about the white paper, but I didn't know about the green.
Yeah. When it gets there, it's...
So now we're going to take a break. I want to talk to Ace about what's going on with the government, what kind of progress has been seen. Give me a checklist on things that were promised by the administration when they came into office, and where are they with delivering those promises. We'll be right back. Yeah. Ace Newbold, press secretary of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos.
No, they kind of left us a little while ago.
Because that's where you have the reason I say that is because any kind of official position in this country, it's Turks and Caicos. The churches they've already conquered. I don't know about the government, but the churches have conquered the Turks and Caicos. Anyway, we should just for fun one of these days maybe go and conquer them. I don't know. Because you know why? Because we have them two armored vehicles and they pull out on Independence. Did you see that, Ace Newbold?
Independence Day?
Yeah, I saw them.
Tellus is my good friend. I grew up with Tellus.
Yeah, but
they had a whole thing. They reveal our full military might to the whole world.
Yeah, well, they ordered those before May 2017.
No, I know, but I'm saying they didn't have to push them out there during independence for Cuba and everyone to see what could happen. Okay?
Surprise them, man.
Yeah, surprise them. They think maybe we only have one.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, we pull out another one.
We pull out the second one.
We catch them from the other side. Listen, Ace Newbold, you've been very close to the process. What is the government's feeling? I mean, you can only represent, I assume, the government's position. What's the government's feeling on 2017 May to now, which is essentially a year and several months? 3 months.
A couple of months. Yeah,
what has the government achieved in real terms based on what they promised the Bahamian people they would deliver to them in this first term.
Question.
It is a big question.
It is a big question, and I'm not going to even attempt to answer all of it.
That's
but
you
failed.
But you know, listen.
What'd you say?
He failed. He failed the test.
No, he didn't fail.
I failed the test, right? Listen,
no, you
as long as I pass the test that
with your boy,
the member for Kalani has, I don't fail any other test.
I understand, but I have to test him now.
I guess, you could test him too. Yeah, I leave that between the two of you.
But I mean, obviously there's something.
I think the overarching goal was to first of all get this economy in hand, and I think that's been done. We don't know where we're going to go with this VAT thing yet, and I heard somebody on another station say on the way here, before I said, you were listening to Ed, you should go back to listen to Ed, with that 12% VAT increase. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's been no 12% VAT increase.
I know, and I've been hearing people throw all kind of numbers. Yeah.
Well, you know how I am with misinformation and just complete ignorance.
4.5%. But we think that is it as smooth as it could be? Are some people having a hard time? People are always having a hard time. People have always been having a hard time. And the Prime Minister's position is, I wanna try to see how I could make that less the case for as many people as possible. And one of the ways that will happen, I got to put my hands around this economy and stop this runaway spending and debt and all these things that we do.
I mean,
just because we could do it.
Are we so undisciplined, however, and I guess,
we are.
We always talk about Bahamas, but it's global, to where even in your own home, right?
Uh-huh.
Roganne Smith and I were talking the other day, and she said how she manages her finances and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know,
thank God for my wife, man.
but if you know that you make $100 a week, and you spend 110.
I was going to say 112. You mean right in my head.
Right?
Close
You're
to
right
it.
in my head.
Right? But I know with round numbers. 110, right? You have to know. At some point, someone's going to come to you and say, you know what? That can't work anymore. So you, in your own segment or sector, have to say, you know what do I pull back on? Or what do I do extra? Because, you know what? If I want to spend 110, fine. But where am I going to get 130?
Yeah.
Listen, and that's perfectly understandable. While you're doing that and you getting your arms around this economy, with this runaway spending, invariably, the human element is injected. And you think, we have 50,000, just pulling the number out the air, we got 50,000 people who ain't got no jobs, man.
Yeah.
5 of them is mothers with 3 or 4 children. We ain't gonna ask her where the pie is for them children. But
they hear
5 of them
are
unwed mothers with 3 or 4 children.
No, I mean the children.
And we have to figure out a way. Yeah, we gotta stop this runaway spending, but we got to figure out a way to help that 5,000.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
Yes,
for sure.
It is a balancing act.
And so it's difficult to do that.
But this is why I saw the budget as actually trying to make that balance, because
absolutely,
what you say is, okay, that person who's not working, the reality is, and I don't know their reality, but the reality is that in order for them to survive, they're going to have to eat.
Yes.
And if they're going to eat, their basic food needs are X.
Yes.
And so on their basic food needs, there is no VAT.
There's no VAT.
Mitigated to some extent for those folks.
To some extent. And again, we talk about what's in the budget and some of those things that were promised. Free education at UB next September. And that was something that Prime Minister said, yeah, I want to do this.
But the parameters haven't been determined yet, right?
Well,
it's got to be a decent grade.
You got to have a certain grade point level.
Don't come to us with no C, please, Mr.
No,
Press Secretary.
C is not going to work.
No.
C is not going to work. Yeah. And he got beat for that, what you expect from an opposition. You promised the people free education. Where is it? And I'm like, man, And I told the guys this the other day, because if I was speaking for me, I would have a totally different response, right? The state you left this country's finances in.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
Yeah.
But of course, that's what opposition
Has the furor died down in your mind? Because there was a lot said about the implementation, the increase in VAT coming on stream. Lots of people. You see in today's paper, you got Fresh Market talking about this VAT hike causing a 10% sales slump. People are still adversely impacted, but I don't hear the same furor that I heard in the run up to it. So are people? You think it's leveling out and people
it will level out, and a lot of that, not all of it, a lot of it, unfortunately, by people who know better and should have used the occasion to help to educate people about the process and what was happening, and some of it was opposition stuff.
But you know what I'd like
it was
to hear?
Politics.
You know what I'd like to hear, Rogan Smith, and I'd like to hear what Mr. Roberts says about food sales, because let's face it, in the slump of 2008, and I'm not saying this is the same scenario, but in the slump of 2008, the first stores to go out of business was Sharper Image and places like that.
Yeah.
AOL Foods is actually a high-end scenario, okay?
Yes.
So maybe the pate thing went down. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to hear what, say, Mr. Roberts says in terms of sales, because people are still buying basic items. Okay?
Yeah, and you gotta eat.
Yeah.
And so people gonna continue to buy food. So there's the human element in there, but as we talk about things that were promised, again, broad brush, make the quality of life better for as many Bahamians as possible. That does not happen overnight. And the Prime Minister came back this afternoon from New York and the United Nations. He had a great trip.
You went?
No, I didn't go.
Okay.
I needed to be here to talk to y'all.
Okay.
So, I don't need to be with him.
Okay.
Once he talks to me.
I'd like to go on a couple of them trips.
But broad brush, we talked about this earlier. What is happening with the Over the Hill initiative? That is very broad. And as he's speaking to the UN, he's presenting this as this is one of the ways that my government is addressing things like poverty, lack of potable water, all those things that are planned for Over the Hill. We were talking earlier about the tax exemptions, $5 million and less, $100,000 and less, get to bring in vehicles for your business, et cetera, et cetera. All those things are in there for people as the government continues to get its hand around the economy.
Go ahead, Rogan.
I want to ask you something. I want to read something to you, right? Mm-hmm. This is about the government's proposed ban on styrofoam and plastic, for single use.
Right.
So there seems to be obviously there's a growing backlash from not environmentalists, from the business community.
Businesses who
are going to be
plastics.
forced, who use the plastics, and now they're going to be forced to do away with them. So today I got a text that said, this move by the government to push this plastic and styrofoam ban down our throats will cause me to have to close my business. And this business person was just saying, they were thinking about expanding on their locations, but now they're going to have to reevaluate things because they can't keep pushing their price point up for their items. People aren't going to be willing to pay such a higher cost because they have to get rid of these plastics. And these biodegradable items, they're way more costly than the plastic. So is the government giving any consideration to the adverse effect? And they're applauding the government for at least trying to do something with the environment. But it's a balancing act because you certainly don't want to send people. You don't want them to not expand their businesses. You don't want them to send people home.
You don't want them to go out of business.
You don't want them to go out. You don't want to drive them out of business.
And it's always a balancing act. It's
because
always
you
a
also
balancing
have,
act.
we're faced with the same scenario because you also have backlashes where people around the world now are saying, you know what, I'm going to go to organizations or to hotels or to places that are environmentally friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So then it affects the economy if you don't make these type of things. You'll even get to a point where you won't be able to buy them. Because the producers of those places will shift to biodegradables
producing something else.
So but you won't even. Just yet.
Well, not just yet.
No, not yet.
But I saw something just the other day where they're taking landfill stuff now, plastics, and making steel out of it.
Making steel out of plastic?
It was just on PBS last night. It was amazing. I don't want to get into the science of it, but steel is made out of iron and carbon. meshed together, smelted together, which makes steel.
Right.
Well, the reality is plastic is carbon. Okay?
Yeah.
And so they found a way to condense the plastics, like, say, headlights, all these type of things, to a carbon, and then to mix it up with iron so that they can make steel. It is recycling in its purest form, right? But think the world is moving.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, and I know this sounds harsh because this is the reality, Rogan, that we have to face in life. I can tell you from being in a business that as things change, let's look at like Blockbuster.
Hey.
Okay, I mean, I saw the other day there's one Blockbuster left now.
There's still Blockbuster.
One in
where?
What's the place? Seattle or something like that.
Yeah, it would have to be there.
Blockbuster.
It would have to be there.
And all because Netflix came?
Yeah.
Throw me out.
Yes.
Okay, so
they
there
should
are.
have transitioned into that.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the business schools in Harvard always raised the fact that the people who were in the, I think we talked about here, who were in the horse whip business,
They didn't realize they were in the transportation business.
Or the acceleration business, and move to accelerators. Okay, so the reality is that is a dilemma of the. I mean, there are things as we speak right now that are just going out of business.
Yeah,
Going obsolete.
You can hardly find a phone. A landline phone anymore in a store.
Because who's making them?
People just using their cell phones. I don't have a house phone.
See?
Yeah.
That's what we mean.
I got one that didn't even make sense, so I went back to my cell phone.
I was talking to a friend of mine. He used to be one of the largest. He had the photography concession for Paradise Island. And he says he remembers talking to somebody about this whole digitization thing.
Yeah, I know.
And he says,
I ran to that.
Yeah, he said he didn't pay any attention to it.
Gone. I know who that is because I actually negotiated with him.
Yeah,
I know. And it's just
one of those things, and you have to continue to make the adjustments.
Film.
Adapt with the time.
Yeah, film.
Okay,
right?
People had racks and racks of film.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Kodak, one of the biggest companies in the world.
Right?
No one would have ever thought. I don't even know where they are now.
They're trying to do something.
They ain't selling. You know what their biggest product was? Paper.
Paper.
Photographic paper.
Photographic paper.
Well, people still using paper.
Not much.
Not
compared to that. People just saying, look, man.
Yeah, look. Exactly.
I'm so old school. I still print pictures.
Yeah, you're one of the few.
Well.
Yeah.
Polaroid
I still do.
Huh? Polaroid is kind of my.
They went obsolete, then they came back. Yeah.
But people going like, here, man. See, let me show you the.
No albums anymore.
Which is insane. They're the best.
The people who made the little corners.
Huh?
Remember the little corners?
Yes, for pictures.
Well,
what are they buying that for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the other things you talk about, things promise, trying to get the economy and hands around it. Grand Bahama, Tech Hub. That's gonna take off. Feel real good about what's happening with Grand Bahama and technology.
Go into Rogan's thing about the paper thing, right? I want to just go back to this. So knowing now that, for instance, right now as we speak, right? If you have a business, styrofoam is a cost to you.
But it's expensive.
Even if it's cheaper, it's a cost. So now maybe what you say to people is, look, if that styrofoam added, say, $1 to your meal, and as a result of going from styrofoam to, say, a cardboard box, it's going to cost $2 a meal, do this. Say, you know what? Bring your own container, and that meal now is 50% cheaper. Okay, people are now walking around with containers for their water.
Except
there's some people some takeaway restaurants bring your own bowl.
Yeah, but that's not like the upscale. I mean, I'm sorry. I know that people say bring your bowl and you get your sauce and all that sort of stuff, right?
But you're not going to see that everywhere.
As a consumer, I'm going to go to the place that is giving me whatever this biodegradable material is. I'm just going to go there and not go to the place that goes higher on their price. I don't know.
Well, it depends on the product. If your listen to me. If your product is slamming, that I want to go and get a roti.
I know a lot of slamming food, and I don't do it because it's just too expensive.
No, the point I'm making is if you bring it, if the cost right now, anything you deliver, anything that you think is slamming right now, right? There's a cost to the container. No matter what it is, whether it's wax paper, foil, a wrap, there's a cost to that container. Now, if you eliminate the cost of that altogether, then the actual food price can go down because that is no longer a part of the cost. Okay?
I
delivering that product.
I am sure accommodations will be made, but
people will adjust.
But
it takes time, though.
Listen,
it takes time, and I don't want to hear I'm sorry, I'm not trying to jump down your throat, but I don't want to hear people will adjust. I think you have to get ahead of it. You don't want I don't want to see businesses going out of business.
Well, that's why it's not till 2020. That's what you didn't just say.
I know.
We're plasticking tomorrow.
But that's around the corner, though. We're already midways in 2018.
Yeah, but you got 19 and 20.
And so your friend, associate, person that you know need to get moving.
And I think I know who that is.
No, you're wrong.
Okay, you know who I thought. See?
Yeah, you're wrong, okay.
Actually.
But anyway.
You're all communicating. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I understand that.
Normally you're on the same wavelength, but okay, we'll be back.
Rogan, you admit that?
Let me ask you. Rogan Smith brought up the issue of, and we're having a conversation here. We're not in any one bent. The issue of balance and change. One of the things I would think then that the government would do in this era of change is to find ways to facilitate people making the adjustment. Okay? Now, for instance, I know one of the things, but it still isn't, the price is still high, is you remove duty, for instance, off of biodegradables. That's one way to help. Right. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, of course, is globally, biodegradables, because the people know they've got you by the balls, they're still high. They're just jacked up the price. Yeah. No, they jacked up the prices because they know that you have to buy it.
Yeah, eventually it'll come
until
down.
Eventually someone will come along and say, well, the heck with that. They're selling 30 of those at that price. I'm going to sell 5,000 at this price. So that'll balance out. But what could the government do? Oh, is there some? And I hate to talk about creating some sort of another government agency, but what could the government do to encourage or to foster, educate people how to make changes? I mean, you've got 2 and a half years, for instance, on the straws, etc. So, for instance, let me give you an example. And I don't know how this is, and this has nothing to do with government. A lot of places that I'm going to now just don't have straws. They ain't buying no paper straws.
Yeah.
They just don't have straws.
Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing people have to start getting to. And they may not necessarily go together. The Small Business Development Center is being Davina Blair from UB is going to head that. That would help because in addition to helping a small business develop, you get to help to advise them and steer them and give them some good advice as to how to stay in business. That's one of the ways to do that. Other than that, people would just have to, again...
I mean, we had chicken in the bag when we were growing up, right? We didn't have chicken in the styrofoam.
True. So what's wrong with that? So you didn't grow up with chicken in the bag.
Yeah,
chicken in the bag, man.
It was wax paper.
Or the foil paper.
Wax paper.
Or foil later on.
Wax
paper.
Wax paper.
Nothing tastes better than Fat Island. 2 o'clock in the morning with that greasy bag. You're trying to keep that off your sharp pants, man, with them grease.
So why would you go back to a bag?
We can do that.
A brown bag is not as expensive as a... Yeah. I'm sure a brown bag is cheaper than...
Better for the environment.
You don't have to go fancy with the nice little sushi box.
That's sushi box, right?
Just go with chicken in the bag.
Listen, other things that are happening. Getting ready to debate the Economic Empowerment Zones bill. Of course, we had the Commercial Enterprises bill. That's how GBC Digital got to Grand Bahama. The Economic Empowerment Zones will allow all the elements of the Over the Hill Initiative to all those tax breaks, et cetera, that I was talking about, all that to start to flow. The Minister of Finance just talked about, and I saw a comment today, I think it was in the Tribune, from the Contractors Association president, where the Minister of Works was talking about it actually yesterday, where the procurement for all government contracts is going to be online.
Which I love.
Again.
Talking about transparency.
Yeah. Those
I love
are the
that.
kinds of things.
I think that is spot on. So I'm happy about that.
Right?
I want to bring something up, Ace Newball, to that point.
Yeah.
It's just a quote that I've read a couple times about this whole. And I'm sorry, I did interrupt you. So let me. I don't know if you.
No, go ahead. I'll get back to where I want to go.
It goes to this thing about the ease of doing business. You talked about it, but the fact that people who are trying to produce have to ask permission. This was a quote. This isn't my thing. Have to ask permission from those who produce nothing. Okay? The fact that people who want to be innovative, the fact that people who want to create small businesses, they have to go to this thing called the government, okay, to get approvals, to get permits. Mm-hmm. I think it was the minister yesterday who talked about ease of doing business. I forget who it was. Was it the Minister of Works or the Minister of Finance?
It probably was the Minister of Works.
Okay.
I don't think
I saw it in the papers or something. I can't remember who said it. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But where are we on that? Because you know what? I think with all of these things that you put in place, mm-hmm. all of these, could you be free? If you can't register on time or online or efficiently, it's a problem. If you put in the contractor's bill and you can't get this signed or that pumped out, it's a problem. So while we're doing the things that are mm-hmm. theoretical, what are we doing in a practical sense to make things move along?
There's a lot of, again, we talk about business license, et cetera, and that comes under the Ministry of Finance, uh-huh. where a lot of that stuff now you do online. In fact, a lot of that you have to do online. That's bringing technology into, and again, the Prime Minister talks about this all the time, digitizing the Bahamas.
But aren't there some humans that will have to still go into that process
we can never get
a proof to prove that? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but we could never get away from it.
Okay, so we can't get away from it. How do we get those people more sensitive to response time, etc.?
You continue to train them. And I know the IDB has provided some funding for some of that. They've been involved in this mm-hmm. for a while. You got to train them, and that's all you can do. The human element will never not be there.
Someone said something to me today that I thought was very interesting. I would like to hear you reflect on it. And again, we're going to take heat from saying it. They said, it used to be where especially black Bahamians entered the civil service because really in the private sector, these were educated people, but they didn't make it in the private sector because there was a ceiling. So they got into the public sector. And then as these are very smart people, this is back in the day, mm-hmm. and as the colony thing moved away, these people rose. Uh-huh. But then what happened was the public sector became a place for people who were not the best of the best. Mm-hmm. And they've now risen up to the ranks, etc. And the innovation and the creativity is just not there. Is that a fair statement?
That's quite possible. Yeah. But remember now, a lot of the indigenous, mm-hmm. black Bahamians, mm-hmm. a lot of them went to government high school. What was government high school for? To train y'all to go into civil service. And so when they knew what they were going to do, and they were trained, and
then we wiped that out.
And we wiped that out. I still saying, listen, I went to SAC, man. I had my SAC
my apologies.
Shirt on this morning.
Yeah, good.
But I think that removing
government high.
I think the idea of a government high needs to be somewhere. I think that was a mistake. That's my view. I told the person who was in the middle of it.
You have an MIT, right? I mean,
it just needs
you have to have a place where people who can excel can go to.
Yeah, and I think that was a bad idea. But it's a countrywide thing.
Yeah.
Those people who were trained for that, yes, most of them are gone now. And somebody's talking about the illustrious Southern Grand Commander, and I call him that because of my association with him and the Freemasons.
The father. By the way, my condolences to the Sands family. Basil Sands passed away this morning. Basil Sands Sr. Passed away. And Basil Sands Sr., and we're going to take a little break here to talk about this. Yeah. Basil Sands Sr. Mm-hmm. is one of those people I would call the most silent icon type of people.
True.
They do not make a lot of noise.
No.
But they have a huge impact.
Huge impact, and he was there.
And there's no question about it. Just through his children, etc., and mm-hmm. how they have contributed, and the example he led for them. So these are the kind of people who, and by the way, don't get, they don't get a lot of notoriety. But they play a part in the economy. People, they serve on boards, etc., but they're quiet. They're quiet and they do the job, and that's what a lot of it is. So our condolences to the Sands family, who Uncle Basil passed away at 9:20 this morning.
9:20 this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and he lived a good life. He was, I think, 89.
83.
83. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
I think he was 83.
Yeah.
Is what we are told.
Yeah.
But but we need to figure out a way. We don't have any more GHS.
Mm-hmm.
We have to find a way to grow those kinds of citizens that I always talk about, because leadership is important. Leadership is always important. Leadership will drive or stifle whatever's going to happen. But individual commitment to these things, man. Because whatever you say about my boss, he can only do so much.
Yeah. The UB scholarships kind of focus on that in a way, right? Where you say, okay, if I'm going to give students who are going to get a certain grade level, I'm going to make sure that they get a tertiary education. But even more than that, is the administration involved in the thought process that in order to move this nation along, right, there's got to be some focus on that type of thing, on
Well, two things about that. Miss Elise Delancey, who most recently has been in the public service, she's coming into the office of the Prime Minister.
I'm not familiar with Elise Delancey.
Yeah, if you saw her, you'd know. She's been a public servant for a while. And she's going to look at how the public service is going to be retooled. That's going to be her job.
Appreciate it.
Where she's actually going to be looking at ministries and departments with her team and saying, we see where the deficiencies are. Yeah. This is where we need to shore them up. This is what they need, et cetera, et cetera. Prime Minister talked about the 4 best and brightest from UB graduates came in. They gave them good jobs. They're going to send them for a year to Yale or somewhere.
Fantastic.
And then bring them back and plug them into the system.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that is part of the 10-year plan. Right. To get these young people to come in here, people who are thinking.
Boy, if y'all could
restructure
this is we're
talking about that. We talked about this, about how you take people, and you know what? Instead of having 4, 5, 6, 7 people who are making $30,000 or $40,000 a year, you focus on bringing 2 or 3 people and make them at a 70, 80,000, because they're going to be extremely impactful.
Yes, and they're going to drive whatever change you need. But again, you talk about trying to do what is the government doing, what is the Prime Minister attempting to do. And of course, he needs some people around him.
Is enough awareness being done with things like this? Because, I wasn't aware. Is this new, relatively new?
Relatively.
And that's what you're supposed to be telling us this stuff? Except on the show? You telling us now? Ain't you supposed to be at the podium telling us this stuff?
I tell you that stuff.
Okay.
Prime Minister tells it to you more than I do. He's been talking about it a lot, right?
This is an old thing, cliche thing about public relations and information and all that. And I know you can't just send out a story and that story goes out and you say, okay, I did it, because that's lost after one day. Is there funding and structure to just be making people aware of this constantly, so that they know what's going on?
Let me tell you, and this, I don't know that this necessarily will happen. I will tell you that there are discussions about how we educate people on a mass scale that you will hear about, I think, very shortly. But one of the things that somebody brought to me, several people brought to me actually, last May, they wanted to install billboards in all ministries, starting with all ministries, especially the ones where people have to go and government departments like BEC and BTC, where you would determine what the content of that billboard would be. Maybe we just passed a bill to deal with whatever.
Sounds very Kim Jong-il or me. But I'm just saying, I don't,
And that's fine, and I'm telling you, I'm telling you, we ain't going there with Kim, but I'm telling you, nothing is all bad.
Yeah.
As nothing is all good.
Good, right.
And some of the elements used by these people to indoctrinate their people, we need to adopt some of them.
I saw something, I saw something on TV the other night. I have to give credit where credit is due. It was from the Ministry of Agriculture. It was on farming in Abaco.
Yes.
I was astounded.
Okay.
And this was private concerns. But the ministry obviously supported their thing. The sod farm, for instance. You know, for instance, that all sod that is now in the New Province or anywhere in the Bahamas is grown in Abaco.
No, it was grown in...
it's Abaco.
I think the story is that's in Grand Bahama.
No, I'm telling you, I know where the sod farm is. It's by Cherokee Sound. Okay? Green peppers.
Is it okay, no, I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about feed.
Okay, maybe feed,
and this
right?
This is feed and is grown in a 10 by 10 box.
Okay. But this is, grass,
this is something
St.
different.
Augustine sod and different types of sod. And you know what they said about sod, which is interesting? It doesn't get impacted by hurricanes.
Oh.
Because it's not, it's not a high tree, so it can't get blown over.
Where's Andrew? I'm sure Andrew is listening to us. Andrew,
in fact, I think Andrew Burrows produced it.
Andrew Burrows produced it. We talking
I know
about
where
the same thing.
I know where the sod farm is.
You know the farm is?
I pass
you
it
sure
every
it's
day.
not in Grand Bahama?
It's by Cherokee Sound. It might be one there, but this one,
one
is by Pinda in by Cherokee Sound.
No,
okay,
man.
And he growing, and they also show the woman who does the sheep. The Neem farm. This is all about Abaco.
Yeah,
this was all about Abaco. Neem, Abaco. I was surprised they even grow their own hay for the sheep. But and now he's growing. This fella's growing Pinda because he did so well in the sod.
Right.
He's now growing green peppers that supply New Providence.
Okay. No. Okay? These were two young fellas doing this. Actually, they may be in Andros, and we're talking about Abaco, and I'm talking about Grand Bahama. Yeah. These guys may actually be in Andros.
Well, I can show you
in this 10 by 10.
Sod farm?
Yeah, it's 5-star, I think, or something like that, like that. The Abaco sod farm. It's there.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making, but you see, the point is, up until 2 days ago, this is the point I'm making, I was completely unaware of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it shows how we can perhaps sustain ourselves. And how we can grow food for ourselves. It's going to be a challenge, obviously, with WTO. That's going to be interesting to see how that. Are we ready for? Well, that's a whole other. That's a whole other show.
Story. And again, it makes us. It forces us to be good. We always say that we're good, and we can compete. We've competed on the world stage in any number of areas. Be good.
But I was told by some people just the other day how we're going to get screwed.
Okay.
First of all, we got 4 months. Secondly, the legislation that's required, similar to this contractors bill, that brings people up to standard.
Okay.
So that if I wanted to go to the United States to be a contractor, for instance, that I could say, here's my certification based on this legislation.
Right.
Is not there. I'm not saying it isn't in the contractors. I don't know. I haven't read that. But in the whole range of fields. Because when you go to those markets, they're going to say, fine, we don't mind you being a thing. Show me your stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to get better. No.
And often now to say, well, I got a mower.
Well, listen, we're going to have to get good real soon, real quickly.
And legislation has to be put in place to make people accede to certain standards.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Ace Newball, it's always a lot of stuff to talk about.
What, it's already 7?
You see, he says that all the time. Yet. He says that all the time. Says that all the time.
Yeah, especially when I get on at 6:20.
No. You came on as soon as you came on in here.
Yeah, I know.
Apologize.
I apologize. I apologize.
Did he come on?
As soon as he came in the door, he was on.
Yeah.
He's just trying to think we forget that happened before. That ain't such a thing. This ain't Trump, you know. We remember, boy.
You remember? Yeah. Good stuff.
Nick, thanks for stopping by again. Rogan Smith, always a pleasure. Ken and Press Secretary of the Bahamas. Listen, I know that a lot of people want to come out here. It's just good to have a conversation.
Why do you always feel the need to say that?
Well, because different people listen and they think, why isn't that?
Your show the way you would need to conduct your show. You don't have to make apologies.
No, I'm not making
you always do that.
I'm just saying it's nice to have a conversation about a range of things that people can tune into. All right, well, listen, we'll see you on Thursday.
Monday.
No,
now.
You know who our guest is going to be on Monday?
I won't be here. But
you won't be here. Her name is, I hope you get it right. The shortened version of her name is Rexy. Shirexia Roll.
Yeah.
She's the Vice President of Operations and General Counsel for Western Air.
Okay.
And, I want to hear the perspective of a young lady who is running a company and probably running it out of Andros.
Yes, I think so.
I think that's where they're headquartered.
I think so.
So it'll be interesting to get their perspective.
Yeah.
All right.
Young Bahamian business person.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ace.
Okay.
I always love when you come. Thank you.